How to fry beef tips. This is how you fry them when you don't want them to be falling apart after you cook them. You get tired of them falling apart? I'm going to start off by showing you my ingredients. I use hot sauce, Worcestershire, A1 steak sauce, black pepper, garlic pepper, sage. This is what I use. In my ingredients, you can use whatever you want. I start off by putting all my dry ingredients in a bowl. And then after I put all my dry ingredients in a bowl, I go ahead on and go back and put my wet ingredients in a bowl. I don't do much measuring when I do these beef tips because I've been doing them so long. I kind of, know what I want in them and know what I like in them. So you can put whatever you want in yours. I add a little salt to them, of course, and all the other ingredients that I showed you. Then I move on to my little whip mix where I'm going to add in my bowl. I'm going to make sure I add my soy sauce. I'm going to make sure I add my Worcestershire sauce to this. I'm going to make sure that I add my hot sauce to this. I'm going to make sure that I add my everything. Anything that I have that's wet, that I'm going to add on up in this bowl right now so I can go ahead on and, get the process started. I like to mix my ingredients separate. It's a little bit easier to mix that way. Once I get them mixed up and I have them in a bowl, then I go ahead on and, move on to my next part. The next thing that I do when I get ready to do these beef tips is I go ahead on and dang, I'm doing a lot of shaking on that bowl. I wish I'd gone ahead on and move on. There it is. Dog, okay, I had a little more seasoning to put in that bowl. I forgot to tell y'all that. But then I start chopping my mushroom up a little bit, going on to my vegetables. Of course, I use the regular vegetables that everybody else use. If you wonder what that little orange stuff is right there, I took them 2 peppers right there and I just pureed them together because I like that to go in there. As you see, my mushroom, my beef broth. There go my good old beef tips. I done let them things marinate in that refrigerator for 2 days. So now I got my flour. I'm going to go on in, add a little of that seasoning that I mixed in that bowl in there. I ain't going to add my wet mix to that because that ain't going to do nothing but make it clump up. So don't add your wet mix to the flour. Just go ahead on and do it like that. Give it a little stir. Then you can go ahead on and go on in there with your meat. Take your meat. It don't matter how many you drop in there. I like to drop them a few at a time because I don't like for them to stick together. Even when I put them in the deep fryer, I don't like to put a lot of them in there at a time because I don't like for them to stick together. And then, of course, I'm going to fry these deep. When I fry these, I'm going to fry them in different batches so y'all can see what it look like when I fry them at 2 minutes, what it look like when I fry them at 4 minutes, and what it look like when I fry them at 5 minutes. Because you can fry them in different ways if you want them to come medium rare or all the way done. So if you want to cook them all the way, then you want to go ahead and cook them for at least 5 to 6 minutes. And this is my first batch that I'm frying. I always use my old grease. I don't hardly ever use new grease when I do this because these beef tips, they so moist. They give off a lot of moisture. So usually when I do this here, I go ahead and use when I'm down to the last of my frying. That's my batch, my first batch coming up. As you can see, they came out real good. Then I'm going on in with me another batch. On this batch, I ain't going to put no flour on. So if any one of y'all want to know what they look like or how they going to come out, if you don't add no flour to them, I'm going to show you. Because, sometimes people have food allergies and sometimes people just don't like to, cook with flour. See how them came out? They came out pretty good, didn't they? Yeah. They look just as good as that first batch I did with the flour on them. Once I, get them laying down on here, I just let them sit on here a little bit to let a little of that grease just go ahead on come out. Then I go ahead on and saute my vegetables. As you see, I got a little bell peppers. I have a little onion that I'm going on in there. You don't have to use the ingredients I'm using because, of course, I like mushrooms. And some people ain't crazy about mushrooms. They're my onions and stuff. Not my onions, my bell peppers and stuff that I told you that I had, shredded up. That's my pot. I got my pot over there on the fire already ready going. Then I'm going to put my juice in. Once I let my vegetables saute a while, I got to let them cook. While they cooking, I'm going to show y'all a little bit on how I did these meats. Now, if you see that meat up there at the top, yeah, I only cooked that meat there about 2 minutes. If you want your meat to look what they call it medium rare, you cook it for 2 minutes. That's all you need for it to get this medium rare look. A lot of time people be cooking them in the skillet, they take a while. If you want to be a little bit more well done, you cook it for 5 minutes. You go ahead and cook it 5 minutes and you see how it look just pretty much almost already all the way done. Almost all the way done. Now, if you want it really cooked, you go on in and cook that thing 6 minutes. You see how I got that little nice, little, firm, little, crisp little look on there? I done cooked that with 6 minutes. Like, literally, it's cooked all the way through to the point that literally you can just take it and see how I bit it. And y'all, you see it's cooked all the way through. I could literally just eat that meat just like it is. And it's really good because, like I said, I had let that meat marinate in the refrigerator for a couple of days. I'm going to go ahead and get my other pot ready with my Lipton soup and my beef broth so I can go ahead and pour this meat right on up in there once it's all cooked. Once I get through cooking it, there it is. I'm putting that Lipton tea in just like I told y'all, that chicken broth. Go ahead on and, admire my meat a little bit. Some of it I cooked, a little. I went on back in and cooked mine a little well because I like for it to go ahead on and get done. If you want your beef tip to get done quicker, go ahead on and cook it at 6 minutes. You cook it in 6 minutes, the meat is really basically already done. Then you can determine how long you want to, put your gravy in there. Your meat in there. So like I said, I went on ahead, I got that chicken broth in there. I went on ahead and add my beef tips to the chicken broth as well as that Lipton soup. I took the rest of the flour and stuff that I had left and added a little water to it. So in a little while, you're going to see me add a little flour mixture to it. It's the flour mixture that I had left from shaking the beef tips and rice. So there it is right there. I added that to it so it can get a little thicker. I added a little bit to my little vegetables that I had sautéing. I cooked them down to they literally just basically nothing because I don't, want it to have that uncooked, texture to it. Once they all cooked, I go ahead on and add them to my pot with my beef tips on up in. I go ahead on and let this cook a little bit more, with my vegetables, with my beef tips. Like I said, I go ahead on and, let that cook. At this point in time, everything is really already cooked in the pot, like I said, because I cook my beef tips at that 6 minute mark. If you got a little bit more time and you want to, let it cook a little longer, then you can cook it, medium rare. Once I add my little vegetables and all that type of stuff to it, and I let it cook by I'd let mine go another 15, 20 more minutes, just because. I ain't doing no hour and a half on no beef tips. You don't have to be here all day with these beef tips. These beef tips gonna come out nice. They're gonna be tasty. They're gonna be tender. You could just look at the meat just come out silky, and you're gonna love it. You ain't gonna have to be in there on this stove all day cooking the beef tips, child.